Okay, inshallah. So just as a reminder, we are studying the 29th word of the words, and we are on the second aim. So the 29th word is about immortality of soul, angels, and resurrection. And the second aim specifically is focusing on resurrection. So we've been looking at different points that we can try to confirm in our daily experience that can help us have certainty that there will be a resurrection. So last week we read the seventh point and we were reflecting on it. And this week I'll just go over it really quickly and then we'll start with the eighth point, inshallah. اوكي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. Seventh point, all the exquisiteness, all the virtues, all the perfections, all the attraction, all the yearning, all the compassion known and seen in the universe are meanings, significations, immaterial words. They necessarily and self-evidently show to the heart and thrust in the mind's eye the manifestations of the all-glorious Maker's favor and kindness, benevolence and munificence. Since there's a truth, a reality in this world, most certainly there's true mercy. And since there's true mercy, there will be eternal happiness. The fourth truth of the 10th word and also the second truth have illuminated this fact as clearly as daylight. We had some homework to, stay with the seventh point, especially. If anyone would like to share any reflections, please go ahead. And if not, we'll start with the eighth point.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So this seventh point brings me great pause, even still. The heart work was to just spend a moment pausing with one single thing and just observing how it's made, from where it comes. And so for me, I spent a moment of just looking at shower, the water, how pure and abundant, and just the fact that it's colorless almost makes it like a sparkle of just, and especially because so many people don't have any access to clean water right now, and we're experiencing that parallel reality. It felt so, and the fact that we also love a certain temperature, and that fact that the quality of the water, water is made in such a way to be able to be warmed through certain properties. And my specific skin is made with receptors, and my personality prefers it warm, and all of that in a single second and an effortless dial. It was just such a profound moment of pause, of subtle beauty and perfection, which was the word for exquisiteness, lata'if. perfect. So kamalat was perfections. And if in that moment in the shower, for example, I can wonder about the ma'na, meanings, or immaterial words, kalimat ma'nawi, then I can only arrive at such favor and kindness that was, I believe the words were ihsan and karam, great generosity. Also, lutf was grace or blessings, and marhama. So the qualities that were said at the end there. And just to, yani, so this happened one time out of all the times that I showered. I made it a point to at least once sit with this. And, and so we're not supposed to just do it once. We're supposed to feel this, all the exquisiteness, all the virtues, all the perfections, all the attraction, all the yani, if we, there's no way all of this can unfold in a day, in a moment of you just thinking about water, reflecting on water. There was also a video that I shared in the homework chat with just people who were so true to their perfection and the subtle beauty of how they're made, that they were filled with joy to prepare bread for people who were traveling from the north to the south. And it was so easy to just watch that and be like, what beautiful people. And then pause. Is it true? What do you mean by beautiful people? And so since we had just had this halakha, it said, you know, they're like these vessels, yani, just receiving this subtle. No, actually, the word for me for that example was virtue, mahasan. Dr. Yamina clarified last week that that was beauty of akhlaq, character, the beauty of interactions. So we've been seeing so many people that are appointed to channel this mahasan lately of just such perfect beauty, perfect kindness, perfect generosity. And the fact that these videos are made to be viral shows that there is a one who chose to yani, I guess broadcast these virtues. You know, in the matter of Yusra, it's like through choosing to make viral such a great calamity, such an unbearable calamity, at the same time choosing to broadcast great virtue. And okay, so this is the last part of my reflection. And it was something I'm sitting with today, and I'm still in need of sitting with it more. But there's so many people that are getting lost in the yearning. Yeah, I mean, right now, there is a very intense, and the eighth point also will speak to this. So, inshallah, it'll help us transition. But I'm finding so many comments just yearning with such a strong intensity for justice, for perfection, for an end to the violence because of compassion and such a need for care. And it's killing them. It's that strong desire, this ishtiyaq, I think that was the word that we used. This longing for things to be so perfect, it's hurting them. And it hurts me. And so when I noticed the comments today, in a separate conversation, it made me pause because I felt like the solution was in this seventh point. If we saw all of this yearning, these are 3 words only, all of the yearning from just the first sentence of this seventh point as a signification or an immaterial word, we wouldn't get so lost in the belly of it, the darkness of it, almost like we're swallowed by this intensity. So, immaterial words is just such a profound way. Signification too, because the need for things to end already. I just want it to end already. You know, people are saying all of this language and it's all true, but it's meant to be a signification, to signify a one speaking through us. And if we were able to see that there is a one speaking through us, pointing that this longing is pointing to this eternal place that we're really, yani, it's as though like not even familiar with, but we're very much so, like Dr. Yamina said many times, in touch with it. It's because we're so like if the dunya, if this temporary place is like flowing water, then that points to something eternal within me that's struggling so intensely with the transience, which yani, is deliberate because then it magnifies this ishtiyaq, which I guess it's a very strong word, ishtiyaq. It's like a very strong yearning. And I wonder if Dr. Yamina, if you have anything you want to add to this, but I feel like it's such an important point because I'm hearing so many conversations and it's so subtle. It's such a subtle, his language is so subtle and the point is so short. It's only a few sentences, but it's so profound. SubhanAllah.
Did you want to respond, Dr. Amina?
Assalamu alaikum.
Right.
Rather than a response, maybe just a remark. When I read the seventh point, what comes to mind first is that most people do the exact opposite. We take for granted all the beautiful things, all the perfections, and when there is a breach in that, when there is something that we dislike, then we suddenly wake up and we suddenly, many of us think of God now, as if the beauty and the order and everything is taken for granted. And suddenly, what's going on? Where is God? How does he allow this? And we can't find an answer that satisfies the heart and the soul, because the question is not coming from the heart and the soul. It's coming from a confused experience of the world. If we just pause and sit down, and we can start from our very dislike, our very despair, for instance, in great hardship, in great crisis. Where is this coming from? So as long as there is separation, as long as I own the perfections in my life, and therefore, by default, I attribute everything else around me to causes, to other people, to causes, to nature, to whatever, then it becomes like a very dark world, and it seems like there is no way out. But if I just pause, and just like we used to say, look at my breath, my seeing, my thinking, my understanding, my hearing, where do they come from? I have no control over them. We can do the same with the dislike, with the despair. Where is this coming from? Whoever is in control now is creating me like this. So it's not I dislike it. Why are you, God, Hasha, creating? You are making me dislike it. So what is the wisdom in it? So when Sarah was saying the power that is making this go viral, but there is also there the indications, the ayat in the fitra, all these people whose fitra agree on one point. They all, just like when we see oppression, we dislike it. When we see help, when we see compassion, we all are made to love it, to admire it, to appreciate it. Where is this coming from? That is all indicating someone who is making us long for, appreciate, and long for, and the male, the inclination is already within us. So we are created with the fitra, we're created with the inclination, and we are encouraged in the Sharia al-Qur'aniyya, in the Quran, to act on this inclination towards good, towards goodness, towards compassion, towards helping others and serving others. And so if we act on this and think it's from us, then we're missing a lot. At least we're missing the eternal aspect of it. And if we don't act on it, then we're corrupting our beautiful fitra.
So it's a beautiful point and a great reminder. I wanted to also add, so right now we're training to heighten our awareness of the perfections, the attraction, the yearnings that are all happening inside of us, within us, around us. The perfections, another sister wrote in our chat for the homework, just with AI being the new focus of alleged, whatever it is, technology advancements. Something about the movements and trying to coordinate the movements to be as fluid as the human joints, and how much effort they had to put to get precision of just the fingers being able to touch and grasp and hold. And so Dr. Yamina was saying even to focus on just walking, when it gets taken away, for example, people with a tremor or some sort of neuromuscular degeneration or something, then all of a sudden you see, wow, there was so much perfection and bounty flowing with such ease that I didn't even notice. So if we notice it and then can come to this, what he calls self-evidently show to the heart and thrust in the mind's eye, this favor and kindness and benevolence and munificence, then when great calamity strikes, inshallah, at least we would have developed more trust, a more solid relationship with the being, and we know how this one is. So when we are confused, because it is confusing, today I was sitting with that confusion, because we don't understand the wisdom of seeing, suffering for children, for example, at the hardest level. And then you remember that the thing inside of me that says suffering is unbearable for children, that's not me. That's a voice, and it's speaking, and I say yes to it. And so who is that speaking that says this is, suffering for children? It's not right. Because there is compassion and generosity and love and so we trust and we entrust, like Dr. Yamina says, we trust and we entrust that there are miracles beyond my visual perception and beyond anybody's visual perception that are certainly must be at work. And I guess it also speaks to the hadith that Dr. Yamina very frequently reminds us of, the hadith Qudsi, that God is, however, his worshiper expects him to be. And just the magnitude of that reality. And now Imam Nursi rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'a is guiding us to really know with certainty these beautiful qualities of karam and lutf. I'm just looking at the original. Ihsan, karam, lutf, and marhama. And Dr. Yamina was saying last week that feeling the truth of those qualities. So when we see people as ambassadors showing such strong, beautiful qualities or virtues, those are the original text. I saw your comment. Thank you, Mahsen. The original text that Dr. Yamina shared last week showed virtues was mahasin, and the same way the yearning or longing in the original text of Nursi was ishtiyaq. So we can see that if I'm seeing virtues in somebody, not to get lost, oh, this person was so brave or this person was so kind, because they're made that way. They're just acting the way they're made. So it points to the mahasin, point to al-husna, al-muhsin. And that ihsan or that karam, that lutf, that marhama, the qualities we were asked to see in the 7th point are what enable me to feel safe and is the groundwork to have a solid relationship of trust and safety, so that I can then perceive the world with that foundation, without which, like Dr. Yamina was saying, we're going to be confused and lost and in pain. And I'm going to pause there.
Jazakallah, Sarah, Dr. Yamina. Last week we had talked about how a doctor doesn't forget that he's a doctor. And the same needs to be true of us with our ubudiyya, with our state of reality, that I am created. So every week is just kind of a reminder and a different practice for how we can have that certainty in our lives so that we don't forget something very fundamental about ourselves, inshallah. I'll start reading the 8th point and we can go from there, inshallah. Man's conscience, which is his conscious nature, looks to and points to eternal happiness. Yes, if anyone listens to his own awakened conscience, he will hear a voice crying, "Eternity, eternity." Should the whole universe be given to such a conscience, it could not satisfy its need for eternity. That is to say, the conscience being attracted and drawn in this way is possible only because it is attracted by a true aim and captivating truth. The conclusion of the 11th truth of the 10th word demonstrates this fact. Obviously, I'm just going to highlight that these are two different words which sound very similar. Conscience is Wijdan, I assume, I think. And then this conscience is his conscious nature, and it looks to and points to eternal happiness. Yes, if anyone listens to his own awakened conscience, he will hear a voice crying, "Eternity, eternity." Should the whole universe be given to such a conscience, it could not satisfy its need for eternity. That is to say, the conscience being attracted and drawn in this way is possible only because it is attracted by a true aim and captivating truth. The conclusion of the 11th truth of the 10th word demonstrates this fact.
Do we know, maybe Dr. Mina knows the Arabic for conscience and conscience?
Wijdan is like the innate moral compass as it's used in English, Wijdan. But the second word is conscious, being conscious, awareness. So the fact that we have been given this fitra, nature here is fitra, the conscious fitra, the aware fitra, is related to that conscience. We wouldn't have a moral compass, a sense of good and bad, if we were not conscious beings. And the word used here, fitra, is Allah is Father. So usually in English, you will see in the Quran, it's translated as creator because it's not easy to find a substitute word. But fitra is not only creating, but it's creating in a particular way. So there is the human fitra, a cat is created as a cat. They are all created, but they are created with a very specific fitra. And the human fitra is conscious. And that's why it has been equipped with this sense, this innate moral sense. Even moral is not a very good word, but like just to give an idea.
I like that they're two separate words, actually. So again, Imam Nursi is received, I mean, first of all, his journey was extremely difficult, and talk about calamities and great calamities. And so he was given enlightenment, insight, and now is sharing this language to help, the need to help others kind of get to the realizations that he received. So he's using two different words for man's conscience, which is his conscious nature, looks to and points to eternal happiness. But then the second sentence says, if anyone listens, okay, that means that there's something speaking to his own awakened conscience, which then indicates that there's a sleeping or unaware. You don't even know that it's speaking. You don't even realize that it's a voice speaking because you just take it for granted and assume that I am the one feeling bad or I want to help. So then you completely miss out on the indication or the signification or the kalimat ma'nawi. I just also love this looks to and points to. Looks to is the first thing that pauses. So when we're observing anything and these feelings arise in us, there is a fitran side. So original, I like the word originator for filtered, and original makeup, just sort of our original nature, which definitely then requires an originator, since it's just how we are made. Man's conscience, with his conscious nature, looks to and points to eternal happiness. So when I suddenly am filled with emotions, either a dislike of the way somebody is acting or a love and appreciation for how someone is acting, if we are awakened, then we can, like Dr. Mina was saying, observe it. Like, you hear something saying, I like this, I don't like this, and you notice it. When you notice it, then that little bit of space, I think that little bit of space of noticing is what makes the difference between being awakened or not. And to connect that to eternity, there's a love for things to be a particular way. We said this in the last point. And every dislike that we don't like, it's because things are not remaining in that particular way that we're made to love. So even our dislikes are because we're made to love something so intensely. And this ishtiyaq, or this mail, this longing, this leaning into, this alternate reality that we know, like this moral compass, it says like things shouldn't be like this. You know, people are like, children should not be starving. Yeah. And so it's easy to get lost in that first sentence. Of course not. They should have food and they should, yes. But it's because I need things to be abundant permanently and perfect permanently that a little disruption of that completely disrupts my peace. Why? Why? SubhanAllah. It's because inside there is such a reality that is dwelling and familiar and from and belonging to eternal perfection. So when we say Inna Lillah, it's like I am from this perfect perfection. Wa ilayhi raji'un. Wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Like, and everything reminds me that I am screaming eternity, eternity, baqi, baqi, perfection, perfection. That's what comes to me. It's actually very pleasing to say that out loud. Alhamdulillah for that channel, because it brings to rest the pain of seeing such disturbing harshness. If we realize the reason why it's so disturbing is because inside there is a eternal, perfect voice, presence, being that can't stand it because it's from and belongs to and needs and is promised perfection eternally. Pause. Mm.
Anyone have any questions about the 8th point? You guys can also write in the chat if you'd like. I think one thing we can ask ourselves is, like Sarah was saying, is my conscience awakened? And can I confirm that it's crying for eternity?
There's a question in the chat for Dr. Yamina, that can conscience be dhamir?
No, it's the conscience with an N. It's in modern language, it is used as dhamir in modern Arabic.
Thank you, Maha. I wasn't familiar. I'm not sure. So does everyone agree that should the whole universe be given to such a conscience, it could not satisfy, it wouldn't be satisfied?
I recently had this weekend I was at a friend's engagement, and it was very nice. And on the way back, I was thinking for myself that there are 100 different parties that I would love to throw. But I only have one life and, a limited time here. And I was thinking even for, obviously it's very worldly. But I had this thought and then I was trying to kind of reflect on why I had this desire. And I realized, there's just so many different ways to manifest like beauty or things that I love that I would love to showcase, or just so many different ways that you could organize this event, right? And for me, I was thinking, okay, I love this theme, and I love these colors, and it could be like this and this. And I was looking in myself, and I thought, wow, like even for, something like this, even the thought of it, just one thought isn't satisfying to me. I have like countless different variations just off the top of my head running in my imagination. And I was thinking to myself, there is no way for all of these to be realized in this world. I would have to be alive for eternity for me to like fully and in a way that I am satisfied with to actually live out each of those dream scenarios. And so I was thinking like when I really stay with one of those tiny thoughts that I have, it can help me listen to my awakened conscience, and hear that that's what it's saying, because it's just not satisfied with what it has in this life. Just always wants more, more, and more, n+1, always more. And I think that's really important to recognize about ourselves. So I really like this 8th point.
Do we know the original language for true aim and captivating truth?
Yes, 1 second.
The captivating is to do with attraction, جاذبة. حقيقة جاذبة. And the true aim is, so this is Turkish, of course. غاية حقيقية. True aim, true goal. And here, jaziba, maybe instead of captivating, compelling, irresistible.
Yeah, that language is so important to me. I think it's so important to spell that out. Captivating, compelling, irresistible. Because whenever we're upset about something, that pull, I think, comes more strong than even sometimes sitting in the blessing. So sitting and appreciating the bath or it's from his wisdom that we have to feel and see deprivation, because it makes the reality, this compelling, captivating truth, so loud and unforgettable, that leads to the awakening. I think it feels like, at least now with everything. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, you see, because it says the conscience being attracted and drawn in this way. In this way is possible only because. So we have to feel that drawn or that strong attraction, that yanking sort of who we actually are. And so many people say it all the time, that discomfort, it's pressure and discomfort that yani heightens the attraction and the need for this alignment and this reality to come to the forefront of who we actually are. It's so easy to forget.
Just a remark, translation-wise, in the second paragraph with should the whole universe be given to such a conscience, there he says it could not satisfy its need for eternity. That is to say, this conscious has been created for eternity. And then again, that is to say, so this has been created for eternity, has been missed, it has not been translated. And then the last sentence is to explain what it means that it has been created for eternity, or how we understand that it has been created for eternity. Which means only eternity can satisfy. And satisfy it.
I think that's even more clarifying. The created for eternity. And then being dropped or positioned in this world as the awakening. It's subhanAllah, it makes total sense. It's like if you're just basking in pure blessing, it's so easy to lose awareness of the magnitude of that bounty and generosity. So then here we are positioned in this place of ibtila, up, yani, straight. The Quran says very straight up, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So it makes sense that we had to be positioned here to awaken the conscience. Alhamdulillah for it. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Let's read the ninth point, inshallah. The ninth point, this is the message of Muhammad the Arabian, peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was truthful, veracious, and trustworthy. Indeed, his words opened the doors of eternal happiness. All that he said are windows opening onto everlasting bliss. In fact, he held in his hand the consensus of all the prophets, peace be upon them, and the unanimous agreement of all the saints, for after divine unity, all their calls and efforts were concentrated on the resurrection of the dead and eternal happiness. Is there anything that could shake such a strength? The 12th truth of the 10th word demonstrates this truth in the most obvious manner.
The word for message here is not risala. It's ikhbar, meaning that the Prophet Muhammad has his giving of news. and it's not who was truthful. The message is who is. There is no past tense, it's present tense. And the everlasting bliss, I guess the translator wanted to use different words, but actually it's the same as the eternal happiness that he's been talking about from the beginning. It's the same word. Sa'ada abadiyya. And the resurrection of the dead is actually Hashr. Hashr means gathering. There is even a surah called Surah Al-Hashr. So here it's not Qiyamah, it's Hashr. It's the gathering, the gathering on the Day of Judgment.
This is kind of like a ladder that Imam Nursi uses in other parts of the Risale-i Nur. Maybe like a hermeneutic, I don't know. But he'll start, you know, if we look at the other points, they kind of point to different things in our lives that we can bear witness, right? So we started with the perfect and intentional order of the whole universe, the total wisdom, the absence of waste. And then we looked at how there are signs of resurrection in night and day, winter and spring. Then we're kind of, you know, imagine this sort of like those videos where you're kind of zooming in from like a really massive bird's eye view of the whole universe, and you're kind of just coming down or being a bit more specific, I guess. Fifth point, we looked at the unlimited potentialities included in the essence of man's spirit. So that is, you know, we've looked at the whole universe, we've come down to now looking into the essence of man's spirit. Then we're looking at the mercy of the all beauteous maker. And then seventh point is a bit more abstracted. All the perfections, attraction, yearning, known and seen in the universe are meaning, significations, immaterial words. The eighth point made us look at man's conscience. And the ninth point now is bringing us into the, I guess, more explicit fold of the Sunnah or the revelation, right? So we're looking at the message of Prophet Muhammad.
So if you know how, as you said, how Imam Nursi proceeds, you can guess that the 10th would be the Quran,
Right.
which is where all this is coming, all this reasoning so far. Now we can confirm and make tasdeeq of the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, and therefore of the Quran. But all the while, we were being instructed in the way the Prophet ﷺ, under the guidance of under divine guidance through the Quran, is teaching us to interact with the world, how to correct our reset our perception of the world and therefore of ourselves and everything.
I really like it. I feel like it follows a very, and we've said this in previous receiving our lessons and retreats. It's a very bottom-up approach, right? It starts with us. It's not coming externally and just asking us to believe. Up till this point, the 9th point, it's asked us to evaluate our existence, our daily life, and that's kind of what the homework has been every week, right? Stay with an experience you're having and just actually meditate. See what's going on in your body, in the world around you, when you go for a walk, when you wash the dishes, when you're driving. Because it's, and like from the last point, right? And what Sarah said very beautifully, that awakening the conscience, it's just been leading up to this. So it's a kind of training that's going to lead you to have then a way of confirming the message or moving towards yaqeen, I guess.
Even the zoom in and zoom out
Mhm.
in that process of tafakkur, of reflecting, if you actually go through it, you will understand you start feeling and understanding the wisdom in the process. It's itself is an edifying process. Because remember, believing is not information. It's like someone tells you, this is how to be happy. I'm making it up. So being happy is not talking about happiness. Believing is like being happy. You talk about it in order to live with it. And that's why when Sarah was talking about that inner voice, that awakened conscience, when we start noticing, if I notice and don't act on it, if I don't take it seriously, then my noticing will shrink and will fade away. But whenever I notice, I take it seriously and act accordingly, then my noticing will increase until it's not a noticing, it's my way of being.
The question that comes to me, so the 9th point, I love the word. It just brought me so much solace and peace to hear Saada Abadiya, eternal happiness, like a happiness that lasts forever and doesn't end. As soon as I heard that, I just felt like I find like something inside released, and I just felt, oh, alhamdulillah, inshallah. So then, since we did this approach, and thank you, Nurbanu, for laying it out, the review from all the points and the beautiful noticing of his approach. That was very nice to have perspective on how we should be studying the world here as students of the universe. So then his words open, because it's not past tense, right? So Dr. Yamina said the original language makes this 9th point present tense, which makes more sense. The message, which is alive and speaking, is truthful, veracious, is trustworthy. So this message that we keep talking about, if we're awakened, we will hear it speaking constantly in our being, in the universe, and in the Quran, the 3 altogether, as Imam Nursi guides us to read. So then, if we are reading those three and confirm the truthfulness, well, I guess we're not on the Quran yet. So far we're on ourselves, the universe, and the message through the messenger. Indeed, his words open, I guess, the door, right? That would be a present tense. Open the door of Sa'ada Abadiyya. And all that he said are windows opening. There's the present tense. Are windows opening onto Sa'ada Abadiyya. So now I'm asking Dr. Yamina. I did have some last week, I guess, resistance or struggle with tasting the peace of the every single time that I would hear or feel something disturbing. I can pause, I can notice it as something speaking. I can hear what it needs. Yes, you're made to need perfection. Okay. But to sort of let that flow into a message of Sa'ada Abadiyya, it was not so easy. Sometimes, but not really. Like, I'm not, yeah, clearly it's a training. So I'm wondering how that door could be open into, right? Because we say this world is flowing water. It's like flowing water. And I like that word because it's coming from somewhere and it's going somewhere and it's just passing through. And it makes this whole world feel so much lighter and easier to deal with, just the metaphor. So now if it's coming from Sa'ada Abadiyya and returning to Sa'ada Abadiyya, then there must be a way to feel, sort of translate or interpret the now with that bridge that Imam Nursi said in one of the past points, like a bridge into this Sa'ada. I guess maybe, and this what just came, when I'm disturbed about something, it's because there's, and he said this in the last point, there's something that the speaking voice knows Sa'ada Abadiyya or dwells in this place of perfection, is dressed in this place of perfection. So when I hear it speak, it's as though maybe, and I'm asking this is a question now, Dr. Yamina. When I hear that voice speak with the blessings and even louder with the disturbing disruptions, is the path to seeing the door or the window of this Sa'ada Abadiyya, this lasting happiness. We can taste that now. How? The question is how? Is it through noticing that the voice that's speaking is the proof, yani, is the tangible, maybe, substance of Sa'ada Abadiyya that's speaking? I don't know if that makes sense.
Here he's saying first, so the saints, here it's the awliya, means those who follow in the path of the Prophet, ﷺ. All the calls and efforts in the past Prophet, ﷺ, were focused on after divine unity, after Tawheed Ilahi. So first, divine unity. In order to live with the awareness of divine unity, it means we're living with an iman that leads to ihsan, a conscious iman. So we're living in the presence of God. Wherever we turn, there we see His wajh. We see the malakut aspect of everything that reflects the beautiful names of God. It means first, everything is flowing, everything is transient, everything is impermanent. The impermanence is the mirror to permanence. The flow is the ayah to the permanent source, to the permanent, constant, beautiful names, so that we don't fall into the illusion that things own those qualities. We see something that's beautiful, flowers, and even though we say, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, part of us may still be attached to what we call flower, to that makhluk, to that creation. And then it wilts, and there is nothing beautiful about it. There is no form, all that form, that smell, that everything disappears. And again, with that death, with that passing, it is declaring, glorifying God, making tasbih, saying La ilaha illallah, making shahada, testifying that just in case you didn't get it, that beauty, that life, that form, that color, that perfection is not from me. It was just a mirror-like. So that's when the more we stay with this reality. This is 101. So the flow, we start seeing things in a totally different way. We start becoming, living more from the soul, from the ruh, and paying attention to the malakut side of everything. The conscious side that is declaring the beautiful names of God. You can call them angels. When we start witnessing how they are all pointing, indicating the eternal beautiful names, that's when we can confirm the reality of Hashr, of Akhirah. Because there is an eternity now. Things are all passing, dying, and in that is the very gate, the very window onto everlastingness, onto Akhirah. Then comes eternal happiness. So there are steps, and the words used here, the message of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who is, the message is truthful, sadiq, veracious, masduq, and trustworthy, musaddaq. So musaddaq is a name of the Prophet ﷺ, but musaddaq, so musaddaq is the message he brought, everything he taught is musaddaq. It is confirmed. It has been authenticated. It can be certified. It can be confirmed. This is its quality, because it is totally not only reasonable, but totally in alignment with the reality of the world, with the reality of our fitrah, with our needs, everything. So we can 100% confirm it. So it's all about confirming. Masduq is also, it is trusted. It is more than credible. It is something that you cannot not believe in. And musaddaq. And sadiq, it is truthful. It only says That's why we say Sadaqallahu al-Azim at the end. Of course, we can only say it if we are making tasdeeq, we are confirming. So sidq is truthfulness. So all the three words are to do with the truthfulness of the message is such that it is easy to confirm its truthfulness because it's totally in alignment with the reality of the creation out there, our fitrah, our needs, everything. So it's made easy upon us. So first, Tawheed, everything is an ayah, everything is speaking, everything is alam al-shahada, is testifying to the beautiful names of God, is testifying to the reality of akhirah, hashr, and then eternal happiness. Eternal happiness, this eternal goodness, eternal beautiful names, everything that we long for, everything we need is with God, and it is here and now and always. So now with this knowing, with this iman, with this consciousness, with this perception of reality and of everything, how are we going to interact with calamities? It's going to be totally different. It doesn't mean that there will be no painful nothing, but that pain is also speaking of akhirah. It's also telling us about God. It's also urging us to seek refuge with him. It's also reminding us of our ubudiyah, of the fact that we are needy beings and that we need this eternal happiness. We need this true justice on the day of judgment that no one can escape. And alhamdulillah that no one can escape, because sometimes the oppression is so huge that it becomes like the darkness that makes us realize our need for compassion, for justice, for power, so alhamdulillah that God exists, alhamdulillah that there is akhirah, alhamdulillah that there is hell, fire and paradise and hell.
One thing that I think keeps coming up, especially in the last few weeks, maybe months actually, is that, like Dr. Yamina said, looking in this lens isn't going to make my life worry-free or pain-free, but it's going to change how I receive those feelings. So when I feel discomfort or dislike or pain, I will be able to find meaning in it, or at least ask and reflect on it to see that why is this created in me, and what is the wisdom in this feeling, because like everything else in the universe, from the smallest thing to the biggest, wisdom is infused in creation. And since my feelings are part of that creation, they must be coming to me with a wisdom. So I think we can definitely focus on this point in our reflections these weeks.
Again, Dr. Yamina, for that clarification. So I'm just going to repeat it. I think it's a great homework. So my question was, how do we use the moments in our lives here and now, the blessings and the calamities and the great tribulations that we are witnessing? How can we use all of this to, like he's saying in the 8th point here, have this window opened into eternal happiness, or this door? And so the steps that Dr. Yamina gave, that we can, same thing, at least 1, 2, 3 times a day, sit with this process, which is first seeing the things happening, the feelings inside of me, the beauty out there, the blessings in front of me, as an ayah. Tawheed means that every single thing 100% points to a single source, 100% of the happenings inside of me, around me, every single thing that exists, 100% of that points to a single source. So that's how we see it as an ayah. And an ayah means it's pointing to something, right? The indication, the signification, the immaterial words is the beautiful names of God. So then I can ask, what names are being disclosed to me through my feeling, my like, my dislike, my disappointment, my love, my appreciation? What names or what immaterial words are being communicated to me, and link that to a permanent source. Since everything is passing here, including me and everything around me, then resurrection is guaranteed, because if there's a permanent source, then there's no way that everything just disappears. Everything is, we understand, the hashr, or the gathering again in an eternal form, is promised. So then when I see or interact with things, if I see the constant one, if I can receive the name, then I've unlocked a door into Sa'ada Abadiyya. So then maybe we can sit with a moment today and just ask, what beautiful name is being disclosed to me? And then pause for a moment, because that's an eternal promise. That moment becomes the door or the window. Did he say the window? Window and door into eternal happiness, inshallah. Anybody have any questions? Or comments about the text specifically, or this specific point? A sister did share something in the chat. She shared that she wants to share something that shows the signature of the creator at different levels of creation, from micro to macro, that she just realized recently, spiral patterns in the galaxies and also in our DNA. And in addition to these, recently scientists observed spiral patterns in the cell membrane during cell division. And here it is on the screen, the link. Inshallah, I'll also put it in the chat for another indication or signification of the one at work here. Jazakallah khair for sharing. I just want to read the comment. It says MIT researchers observe ripples across a newly fertilized egg that are similar to other systems from ocean and atmospheric circulations to quantum fluids. So when we speak of Tawheed, a single one, it's very reassuring to see this. Thank you for sharing it. There's a single one rippling, not just the ripples of the ocean and the ripples of the cells, but the shaking of the earth. It's safe when we know whose hands all of this is in, and we can see that it's all from a single one. And that single one is the one that we're developing gradually, increasingly secure relationship with, inshallah.
You can also see, I didn't read the whole thing, but I'm just looking at the sentence. The egg is a huge cell, and these proteins have to work together to find its center so that the cell knows where to divide and fold many times over to form an organism. Without these proteins making waves, there would be no cell division. How do they know to do this, right? It's another thing to think about. Inshallah. Okay, so we are near 9:30. This link is in the chat for anyone who wants to take a look after. Ramadan is starting, guys, in 5 days. Inshallah, may we all reach it and also to the end of it. The timing might not work for us during Ramadan. So I think maybe we can pause for the 4 upcoming weeks and then resume in April. Let me finish out the session here and then we can chat after the recording is done. Okay, so just give me 1 second. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة على رسولنا صلاة